This podcast is not intended as legal advice. If you're in need of legal services, please contact 602-375-6752 to set up a consultation. You're listening to the official podcast of the Law Office of Libby Banks, Estate Planning, Wills, and Trusts. Your estate planning attorneys in the Phoenix Valley.
I'm Libby Banks, and I'm here with the podcast of the Law Office of Libby Banks. With me today is our other attorney, Allison Gloss,
Hello.
And Dana Keeton, who's with the Neptune Society. Thank you so much for joining us today, Dana. I wanted to first ask you a little bit about your background. And just for our listeners, the Neptune Society is a place where you can sign up in advance to arrange for your body to be cremated when you pass away. So Dana was going to talk to us about that, but she's got a very interesting background that really informs what she does today. So Dana, welcome.
Thank you, Libby, and thank you for having me. I do have kind of a different background. I actually started out in the funeral industry, and the funny story is I was actually a casket salesperson for Batesville Casket, and over the course of a couple of years, the laws changed, and I had to be licensed. So I thought I was just going to simply go get my license, and just continue as that casket person. But guess what? I really enjoyed the industry, so to speak. So it's been 25 years plus. The last 5, I've worked for the Neptune Society directly with pre-need. But for years, I did what we call at-need. So I managed funeral homes and cemetery property for a big corporation called SCI. They've been around for over 50 years. And so has the Neptune Society, and they're also affiliated with the National Cremation Society. So we're all one big happy family. We've got just about 1,700 locations across the United States, Canada, and Puerto Rico. And we employ about 24,000 people. So, yeah, it's very interesting.
A big company.
Yes.
You're not a fly-by-night.
No, we know what we're doing. We finally got pretty good at it. Okay. That's what I joke and say, but yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, tell us a little bit about how you ended up switching from the funeral services, the at-need, I think you called it, to the pre-need side, working with the Neptune Society.
Yeah, like I said, for years I was on the at-need side, managed cemetery properties and funeral homes here in the Valley. Sunland was one of my biggest ones out in Sun City. And it just got to be, those 50-hour weeks is tiring and it's hard. And when most of the people around you are dying and you're in the industry, I needed a break. So I got out of it for a while. But corporate, they just said, no, it's not in your cards. So they kept calling saying, we have a plan for you. And I'm like, no, and I have a plan too. I want to be retired. Mm-hmm. But lo and behold, I joined the Neptune Society to go around and do seminars. So corporate sets up these seminars where people come to lunch and we have a little slideshow and we talk to them, we answer questions, and that's what we do. But being on what we call the at-need side, you do see all the time families that are not prepared. And it's not if, it's when. And that's what we tell people. And why not take care of that kind of stuff when you can ask those questions and you can kind of joke and there again, get a discount or make payments. That doesn't happen when something happens suddenly to someone. Right. So, yeah.
And we really encourage our clients to plan ahead if they can, and they're prepared to. Some people just emotionally are not prepared to do that.
Right.
But it does make it so much easier on the family when there's already a plan in place. We knew about the Neptune Society from my husband's family. So we've used it both for my husband's grandmother and for his father. And the process was just so smooth and so wonderful. So tell us a little bit, if somebody has arranged for that pre-need, how does that work for the family?
Okay. Yeah, like you said, it just makes it real easy because people don't understand when somebody passes away suddenly, especially if it's a situation that you weren't prepared for, a heart attack, something that it wasn't a long-term illness. Pretty much at a hospital, I don't know if you know this, if they don't have something planned, the nurse will hand them a list of places to call and say, here you go. And they don't know what to ask. They don't know what to say.
Their loved one has just died.
Their loved one has just died.
They have to get on the phone.
Yeah, and that's not the time to shop. That's not the time to ask questions. So when I sit with families at a pre-need situation, like you do with what you do for a living, of course, planning, is really to answer all those questions. It's very involved. It's about 17 pages of stuff, but it makes it so simple because we tell our families once they put a plan in place, the only thing that costs their family any money at all is extra death certificates. Everything is taken care of. And it's not sitting there for an hour or two answering questions. Where was your mother born? What was her maiden name? What was this? We gather all that information ahead of time. So it's very simple and it's easy. One call is made, whether they're at hospice, hospital, home, whatever it is. You don't have to call the fire department, the police, whatever. And it's anywhere you be. That's the other thing. I'm in Arizona. I talk about traveling to my daughters all the time, or we'd like to go out of the country to travel. If I die anywhere in the world, that plan brings me back and at no cost to my family and none of the red tape. Yeah, so which is so important. I often tell people die on cruises. And they're like, really? And I'll say, well, yeah, that's why there's morgues on cruise ships.
Yes.
And second of all, think about it. You're in international waters.
I didn't know about this with the morgues on a cruise ship.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Huge red tape if you're in international waters,
Yeah,
okay?
I can
Because
imagine.
what country do you domicile with?
Yeah.
We take care of all that.
And so one of the other things when we talked previously to get ready for the podcast, you talked to me about some of the differences between Neptune Society and some of the cheaper ones. Now, I mentioned Neptune Society is not fly-by-night. I would be also concerned of one that I haven't heard of before. Using them, are they going to be there? What's really the plan for me? Is there a good plan?
Right.
So tell me a little bit about the differences as well, about what Neptune covers.
Okay. Yeah, I like to use it in a way that I think I brought up with you the first time we met, the billboard situation. You used to all the time, and you still do see them once in a while, a billboard that says cremation, $1,010. It's got a little asterisk up there, and you're thinking, what is that? Well, the cremation itself is about $1,000. It's all the everything else. The phone call's made, we come get your loved one. That's called transportation. Unfortunately, I don't want to get too graphic, but there's a storage place, and they charge by the day. Now, do you want us to file some of these funeral homes? Do you want us to file the death certificate? Well, who knows how to do that, right? So these are all those things that are covered. We take care of all of that. We report to Social Security. We get the doctor's signature. We do everything that's necessary. It's not just add-ons. I like to say to people, too, the only time I want surprise is at a gender revealing party or a surprise party. I mean, I don't want my loved one to pass away and then, every day it's more charges. Surprise. Yeah, that's not what you want then. Like you said, you're not in that emotional state of mind anyways.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think about the COVID time period where we didn't necessarily have the crematoriums that were, able to quickly deal with things. And if you have storage, which they have to store the body in the meantime, and you're being charged daily for it. Like you said, what a surprise and a shock. And, for someone with a smaller estate, it just eats into what the family's going to be able to have when you're gone.
You're absolutely right. I mean, I didn't really want to bring up COVID, but during COVID, we had people that were on hold for 2, 3, 4 weeks. And people would get upset. And if they went to Mr. Local funeral home, not a big, those charges started racking up. And it has to be paid. So that's, like I said, it's just a complete everything. And yeah.
And the nice thing, I think, for your family about paying in advance is that they don't have to come out of pocket. So we talked a little bit about sometimes the misconception that, well, I have insurance that will cover that, life insurance potentially, but that's not immediate. And you have to have the death certificate to claim that life insurance.
And I'm glad you mentioned that because the thing is, yes, when I sit with a family that they're just taking care of this ahead of time, you can make payments. You can get discounts. You can do all of that. people with life insurance, sometimes it's so sad. When I was in the funeral home all the time, something would happen. Life insurance is really for the living. And people don't understand, too, that often you have to have a death certificate before you can cash in that life insurance. Well, you can't have a death certificate until you pay for what we call a disposition, whether it's cremation or whether it's burial. So it's kind of like that hamster on the wheel type of thing. But really, life insurance is for the living. That's why they buy it. And people prepare for everything else. Health insurance, car insurance, you name it. Why not plan for this? It's going to happen.
Yeah.
I mean,
Absolutely.
it's not if, it's when.
Yeah. My favorite clients are the ones who are, they're doing the trust with us. They're trying to make sure that, they've narrowed down their accounts so their family doesn't have to go to 10 different banks to try to close up their estate. And they're doing that pre-planning as well.
Right. Because what we used to call it in the industry is pass the hat.
Yeah.
Oftentimes there wasn't the money there, and they couldn't cash in on the life insurance, or they didn't have it. And so then it was like, can you help us out? Or what do they do today? A lot of people GoFundMe, whatever it might be, which is sad, but that's the reality. So, and it really isn't. The really nice thing, too, is it's more affordable than people think. They just don't want to talk about it. And being able to pay for it over time, like you said, makes it really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, tell me a little bit about the process. If I'm coming to you and I've decided I am going to prepay for my family so that they can just have that one call, how does that go?
Okay, so I sit with families, and generally we're talking for a half hour, 45 minutes to explain everything, what's covered and all of that. And then, like I said, it's literally a 17-page document that I end up filling out on the computer today. And I gather all that information ahead of time, their parents' name, where they were born, they're part of their Social Security, where just different things like that. Then they have the option of payment plans. SCI has been around for over 50 years. That's our corporate company. They're traded under Service Corp International or Dignity Memorial. And they self-fund, so you can make payments, like I said, over time, little to no interest. Or if you're going to pay in full, which oftentimes I have families that do that, we give them nice discounts for doing that. The nice thing is, as inflation grows, every year we get an increase in our services, but now your policy grows with inflation. So the family is never out of pocket in the end.
Tell me a little bit about disposition of the ashes. So I know Neptune Society, that was the idea that you could have your ashes spread at sea. But you do other things too, I think.
Yes, we do.
Tell me about that.
Yeah. So how the Neptune Society actually got started was husband and wife moved from New York to California more than 50 years ago. They had decided they wanted to be cremated, and she passed away, and it was very hard for him to find a place to do it. So after all that, he decided, let's go ahead. He started his own crematory, and he bought a boat. And so with that boat, that's Neptune Society, he would, for $500, cremate, and then for an extra $100, he would take you out and scatter you at sea. We still do that today. It isn't $100, and we do own the boats. But we also have services where people want to go in the mountains, the Rocky Mountains, for instance. And most people don't understand that you can't scatter your loved one's ashes without a permit. There's stuff involved. So we do that. We can send people off. I worked with a couple last week that actually have cemetery plots in Indiana. They don't want to be buried anymore. So when they pass, we will send them to that place in Indiana for them to be interred there. We can facilitate with other places around niche situations, or the Catholic Church often has, or the Lutheran Church burial property. We get that person there, so your loved one doesn't even have to do that. That's part of our services. So there's just many, many, many options. I often tell, and I went finally to Chicago. There is a place there, and it's the only place I know of in the United States, where they will take a portion of a person's ashes and turn it into a man-made diamond. So it's there's so many options that people don't know. A lot of people have jewelry made. Jewelry. Different things, keepsakes, memorials. So the options are pretty much, they're pretty big. So you get everything back. And I have people tell me, too, that, we used Mr. Local XYZ when my mom was cremated, and we got her back in a bag. And I'm like, what? Yeah. And so it's just affordable, respectable, and help the families out.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's such a gift to do this for your family so that they
you.
don't have to deal with that. And we really appreciate all your work with the families. And
Thank you.
I'm so glad that we got to have a chance to have you on our podcast. We also are thinking about doing a seminar in the future. So for you and my audience, keep an eye out for our newsletter. If you are not getting it, you can sign up for it on our website, and we'll let you know when we have Dana in to give us more information and answer any of your questions. So thank you so much, Dana, for being with us today.
Oh, thank you again for having me. And yeah, like I said, I love doing seminars because it's really the time that you can open up. You see that other people are talking about it, and it's not such a taboo subject that people think it is.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you again.
All right. Thank you. We're the Law Office of Libby Banks, and this is our podcast. Thank you for joining us. If you will, please like and share our podcasts and tune back in for more later. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the official podcast of the Law Office of Libby Banks. If you're in need of an estate plan, please reach out to our team by either calling 602-375-6752 or emailing info@libbybanks.com. You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook. Just search the Law Office of Libby Banks. Free consultations apply to new and existing estate plans only. If an estate plan is not completed or was prepared by a third party, revisions will be given at an hourly rate. This has been a T-Door production. Music by Track Tribe.